Hi everybody, Jared OD here from Dynamis. Today I want to introduce you to this interview I did with Professor Chris Cushion from Loughborough just recently. He's a coaching and pedagogy professor at Loughborough and has recently, in the last 5 or more years, become interested in the area of conflict management and physical intervention training and trainers. And in this short interview clip here, you're going to see him talk about his work on officer safety training with the police, his analysis of that, including concepts such as time on task and practice structure. I think you're going to enjoy this, especially if you're a trainer in the industry. There is a longer version of this interview available, which I'll put the link near the video that you're about to watch, and you can go ahead and sign up to watch that. I highly recommend it to you. It has completely changed the way we teach here at Dynamis, and I hope that it brings some benefit to you. Here you go. I hope you enjoy it. So the research you undertook in the UK actually resulted in a journal article that you
that's
wrote
a published
and published.
paper. Yeah, I mean the main themes were what were the officers doing, how often were they doing it on the course, so the time on task and how the things were organised, the practice structure, so how were things, in what order were things done, and how were they sequenced to maximise learning, and what type of environment were the instructors creating in doing that.
So a quick interjection here is that shortly after we started working together, you actually came and sat in on one of my courses. Yes. And you did a time on task analysis of the way I was delivering a course. So this is, I'm quite a long way into my career as a trainer, with a successful business at Dynamis and all of that. And even so, the results of the time on task analysis that you did with me were quite surprising to me, even though they're probably not quite surprising to you. But the fact is, I think that a lot of us are leaking time into other things that aren't helping the learner to actually learn.
So I'm interested in what is the learner experience? What are they spending time doing? Not necessarily what the instructor's spending time doing, which of course frames everything. But lots of experienced, knowledgeable instructors have magnificent war stories and can tell incredible stories about their experience, but it doesn't take them much to go off task. And so you end up with learners who are there to learn to do something, not actually doing very much and standing to listening to people's war stories, which are interesting.
What were the percentages around, not for my training obviously, but what were the percentages around on the officer safety training?
Across the 3 courses, the average was about 55% of the time police officers were listening to a briefing, observing the instructor doing a demonstration, or standing as a group receiving feedback on the drill or practice that they've just done. So half the time...
Or a war story.
Or listening to a war story, essentially, or some feedback which led into a war story about when I did this happened, those sorts of things, and you might find this useful.
So 55% of the time non-active, I think is how you describe that.
So standing and watching, or standing and listening for half of the training time.
And how was the rest of the time split up?
So the rest of the time, practice was predominantly in pairs. So it would be a briefing, demo, practice type thing. And those would be 4 or 5 minute blocks of practice. And it worked out to about 25% of the time.
Right.
Actually practicing doing only a quarter of the
And one
time.
of the other outcomes I think that you saw was that the structure of the practice was also kind of flawed, in the sense that it was a disjointed. Is that the right word?
I'm going to be reluctant to use the word flawed, because it did have a logic to it, in the sense that it was things broken up into smaller parts, practiced and then put together, but the parts didn't make any sense. So the courses would jump around and look at different aspects of officer safety training and control and restraint, but it didn't make sense in the terms of a whole task. You go up to somebody, you speak to them, it escalates, it de-escalates, violence, control, restraint, cuffing. There wasn't a process. Yep. It would be, we would jump around from practicing a wrist lock to defending an assault to multiple attacker to cuffing to so it would just jump. Yeah. It would just jump around. Basically, there wasn't a logical they didn't practice the way that the job would unfold, essentially. So it's lots of what I call decontextualized practices, isolated, let's practice this skill. So you need to learn how to do this wrist lock, let's practice this wrist lock, without really understanding where it fitted into a sequence of events that would be representative
operational
of the job.
And functional in the real world.
At what point would you need to put a wrist lock on somebody? When does it happen? What's happening before? What happens after? And are they going to very handily stick their arm out and allow you to put the wrist lock on?
So essentially, because you come from a kind of sports background,
yes.
you're looking for learners who can really do and achieve certain tasks in the real world, and so you come at this from a very functional point of view.
Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, I don't think sports probably nailed this either. But if you think about, apart from the games that aren't self-paced, you think about golf, you put the ball down, you hit it when you decide to hit it. It's all self-paced. There isn't somebody trying to stop you doing what you're doing. But if you think about interactive team games or, a variety of games in sports, there's lots of stuff happening. There's an opponent trying to stop you doing what you're doing. There may or may not be physical stuff involved. There may be physical exertion. There's an environment in which this takes place. So there's lots of stuff happening, and you have to make good decisions and deliver skill performance at the right time to achieve your outcomes, which basically mirrors the world, doesn't it? So
if you map that onto a nurse in an emergency department or a security officer in a hospital,
they have to assess the environment. There's other people, there's other stuff going on. They have to make a good decision, apply the right solution to the problem that presents them at the right time, and be able to make decisions under, all of those things map across.
And then deploy skills in a very open environment where things are changing rapidly.
Where somebody may be trying to stop them doing that, or may not agree, or whatever it is. So it's not all self-paced and compliant, basically.